Hey guys, how are you? How's every little thing? How is everyone out there in internet land and YouTube land and all the other lands we can think of? Um, Thank you for being here and checking me out once again. I am a little bit late here in terms of my monthly coming here and talking a little bit and offering some energy. There is a method to my madness in that, there's been a lot going on for me. And what I like to do is really process. I like to listen to spirit, listen to my heart. I like to go just within myself before I come forward and start sharing, And if you followed me for a while now, throughout the years, you will know that I'm quite candid when it comes to things that go on in my life. And the reason I'm that way is not because I'm looking for, um, attention or sympathy or anything. I mean, I really try not to give off that aura, but it happens, people have beautiful hearts and they hear of things and they want to reach out. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But what I do is I use my life as part of a teaching tool, as part of what I do here, um, aside from sharing what spirit has to say. Sometimes it's one and the same as well, if you know what I mean. Like spirit kind of pushes me to that edge of the little diving board and says, I want you to talk about this part of your life, this event, and so on and so forth. Um, but I do this because, number one, what I've always done in my life throughout my spiritual career is try to be an example um, of someone who happens to have some abilities, but is also very human, And if you have listened to me, as I was saying, for longer than 10 minutes, if you've been following me through the years, you'll know that I feel very strongly about, you know, presenting yourself as something human as opposed to something that should be worshipped and up here instead of, for lack of a better way, down with the rest of the boobs on the bus, if you know what I mean. Like I'm just the boob on the bus, just like you. And that's my whole point in this. I have always talked about it in different platforms and any, this is another one where I pick my hill to die on quite often and tell people like you can have flaws, you can have issues in your life and still be a good leader, still be a good teacher. And in fact, when you have those flaws and you show them, a better teacher because you are showing your vulnerable side and you are giving people that permission to be with a flaw. And that's a big deal, because there's so many gurus and leaders out there spiritually speaking and then some uh, who will just show you, you've heard this before and I've said it, I've been saying that for years about, social media. um, so we're always showing our best foot, and then I've had people be like, Jenny, why did you share that? Why did you, something happened um, with my sister some time ago. And why would you share that? Now they're going to think this or that about you. well, then you're not for me. We're not on, like if I share something or if I do something that turns you off, that's your sign that I'm not for you, and that's perfectly okay. And I'm okay with that. It's really interesting how people are so concerned with their image that they will withhold so much. And I can go on and on about that, but I'm going to try and just leave it there and continue to say that one of the things that has kept me from being on time, I don't have a set time here on YouTube, but one of the things is I lost a dear friend, a very close dear friend who I love tremendously. She has been one of my biggest supporters in healing work. Um, I could say so many stories about this beautiful woman, and I feel a bit lost without her, um, even in doing this work, because not one video that I made, even when nobody knew me here on YouTube and nobody cared, my friend always came and commented. Um, and it wasn't about the comment or what was said, or it's everybody should have a friend like that. You know, I have been in the spiritual industry a long time, but the healing part, I did that quietly. Everything has been word of mouth. It would be like, ask Jenny. I know this woman named Jenny. And a lot of times that's how people would find me, you know. I would always be busy from just that. Word of mouth is a tremendous thing. Um, but when I decided to come out publicly, like this, to come on YouTube, she was over the moon for me. And she was like, it's about time. And, she belonged to all these spiritual groups, which I really am not into, and we had these things that that differed in us, how we did things, our styles and so on. But there, she would share my videos into these groups and brag on me nonstop about all this, all of this, including, but this healing thing, she wouldn't let me go on that. She was like, and it's funny because, and I'm stumbling here, but I know you'll forgive me for that. But um, that she was one of the people who I'd argued with sometimes about getting out there and doing more. She was more of a go, go, go. And I was more of a slow, slow, slow and no, no, no. I really, in my beliefs, I was more in line with the humble side of things, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, that I didn't need to put it out there. I didn't need to advertise. I don't need to do podcasts. I don't need to do YouTube. I don't need to do Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I just, I'm like, I was fine the way I was, and then I, I, I got this feeling, and it was just a few months before the pandemic started. I all of a sudden felt like I needed to share more of this healing energy, in a more public way. And like I was trying to say, she was so encouraging and really, as I was saying, also a little annoying for me at times because she would be so pushy on her points about continuing and keep putting videos out and doing it was too much for me. Um, but it's funny when you lose a friend like that, and then you realize what she was trying to do and what she her intentions were. It was so beautiful, and I know it's probably not making a lot of sense. I'm jumping from one thing to another, but I am an emotional being, and I dreaded doing this video because of that. Not because I'm afraid to show my feelings. It's just that I really didn't want to look it in the face. And that happens sometimes to everybody, you know. But I really wondered, and I still wonder at this moment, what I'll do here. Like I can't imagine ending this video today and not seeing my friend comment. I will tell you that she was a wonderful soul and still is, and she had a heart of gold, and she gave so much of herself to so many. Her and I had this tremendous bond, and it wasn't just about spirituality. It was about music and poetry and magic and cursing. um, One of the things that we shared very much was the fact that we enjoyed cursing like sailors together and depart, but we would often sit there and say F this and F, 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 and shit and F, F, F. And it was very freeing and very fun, and there's a time and a place. And no, I don't sit on here cursing. I do once in a while say this or that, but these little things about her, um, these are the things you don't forget, and these are the things that I most appreciate, and the things that are annoying all of a sudden become um, things that are treasured and perhaps understood more too, if you know what I mean. Um, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do here, with Instagram or I mean YouTube rather, but everything, I guess. I'm not saying that I'm quitting everything. It's just that, especially this in particular, my first public thing, here on YouTube was so supported by this beautiful soul. I always felt like even though I was out here on my own, I wasn't, and she would be like, "You are incredible, and you're so generous, and you're so giving," and she would say all these wonderful things to me. But really, and I'm glad I told her. We kind of argue back and forth about who's better. Like she was of all people, the a real philanthropist, the real deal. And she was known for that. A lot of people knew how how generous she was, and we shared in that generosity. But I always said, you are way more generous than me, like she was. And I feel like now she's helping on deeper levels. And it's an amazing thing. And I just couldn't do a video today without talking in depth about her the best I can. And I'm sorry for taking up your time. I should have warned you to grab a cup of coffee and whatever, and just chill out and listen if you like, or fast forward if you are needing a healing, quickly. Or there's lots of other videos that I have that you can go to right away, you know. So yeah, it's really hard for me right at this moment, and as I was saying, it's important to share that, as I've always shared a lot of parts of my life, my joys and my sorrows, to really not just talk, but show, you know, that we're all people, regardless if we're, you know, wonderful athletes or if we're celebrity actors or actresses or we're highly skilled in psychic abilities or healing abilities or whatever. Like we're people. I'm just a person, you know. And what I hope that you take from this is it's okay to be emotional, and it's okay to have struggles, through circumstances. I don't understand this philosophy that's going out there, so much in the spiritual community, that you can't show vulnerability or else you're not spiritual. Like that is such a disservice. And I think I've said this a million times, and I'm going to say it again, but it's like you, we're, when we do it like that, we're just sending the wrong message, and we're making people feel super bad about themselves, because you have people that are sitting up there going, I have no emotions and I'm not bothered by anything and I'm this and I'm that. And you got these people, regular folks, who are like, oh my God, I guess I'm doing it wrong. I guess I'm not good enough. I guess I'm not there. And then we have, on top of it, people wanting to come up and start sharing their abilities. Maybe they have healing abilities, but they don't want to come onto the scene because they feel that they're too broken yet, or they're um, with too many flaws, or or they have an illness. So if you're, that's another one, if you're ill in any way, then you're not worth a lick, because you're human and you have an ailment. How dare you come on here and try to help people? I mean, what is wrong with this picture, guys? And that's, I'm just doing my little part, my little corner here, and trying to knock a little bit of sense there. You know, um, on another note, you'll see that it looks different. I'm trying to fix the camera situation, and you know, I'm not one of those people that really care about how I'm looking when I'm doing this kind of work. In fact, I probably play down everything about me when I'm working, because I'm not here to, you know, be admired in that regard, you know, or to be admired at all. I'm just here to help if I can. But I know that I'm just not very photogenic, and every time I take a photo or I take a video, I look different in each one, and it's always like weird lighting, and I was using my laptop and it's like awful. So I'm using my phone in my beautiful sanctuary here. And that reminds me, because I wanted to talk more about Corrine anyway, and it's hilarious. It's a cute little story, is that, when I met her, a friend of mine referred her to me, and I was talking to her on like a video Skype, And it had been maybe the third time that I spoke to her. And she looks around and she says, "Could you use a bed?" I said, a what? A bed?" She said, "Yeah, I don't mean to offend you, but that doesn't look very comfortable." And I said, "What doesn't look comfortable?" Well, it turns out she thought that this was like my bedroom or something, and that back there, my little futon thing or whatever, was like my bed. And I'm laughing, but we might miss this if I don't mention, but what a beautiful person. She asked me, could I use a bed? And what if I could use a bed? What if this was my only room or something, And to offer something like, I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. But it came to my mind because I'm about to say, like, it's like a little loft area up in my house, on an upper level of my house. It's like if you've seen sometimes how the camera is, there's like the ceiling is a little bit this way because it's like up in a awkward area, and it's my sanctuary. It's where I specifically do energy work and really nowhere else in the house, you know. Um, but uh, it's amazing is the assumptions that people make, I guess, too. Um, and my point is, I try not to correct people. I allow them to think what they like, but it's amazing when you're in the public eye even a little bit, like little bit like I am. It's like there are very interesting assumptions that I would have never thought of, such as that's my bed, you know. Really food for thought, how one perceives something this way, and that brings me to another point of I really enjoy bling. Uh, I like a lot of rings and things like that, and I don't do that a lot on here. I mean, one time I was accused, and I'm using that word in a big way, accused of having money, you know. And I tried, I'm not an extravagant person, but in my work, I do get donations, I do get gifts, and I was getting a lot of rings because people know that I like that sort of thing, and I felt like I had to wear them when I would do like a recording like this out of respect and thanks, So I was wearing a lot of rings at once, and I was accused of being rich, and if I'm rich, then I'm not spiritual, and that's really something that, it's like we have on one hand, um, where there's people that say you should be humble and live humbly, you know, and not be flashy, and you should just give all your money away. That's one extreme. And then you have the other where it's, you should be abundant. And I honestly, I'll tell you what I think is that there's no should in either of it. It's like, I don't know where all of a sudden the word spiritual implies such rules all of a sudden. Yeah. Like the dogma is real here as, and I've always said, like a lot of people left religion to get away from dogma, yet there's so many things out here that, um, you know, dictate what's spiritual and what isn't. And that's ridiculous. So yeah, I get accused of either being poor, like, oh, that's just my bed, And then I also, if I show too much of my home or my bling, then I'm accused of being wealthy. Like that's a bad thing too, you know. So I just went on, and hopefully I made sense, and hopefully I shared with you what it is I should, you know, because I'm going to move on and just send some energy now, and I hope you get a benefit from it, and I appreciate you hanging in there with me. This is so weird. The whole thing is all different, and maybe that's better. Maybe, I just had the idea as I was saying, let me finish that thought because I went off on these tangents, but, you know, um, trying to rectify how I look, at least to, not look really like, the details and the lighting and the bad video and just try to straighten that up if that makes sense. So we're trying the phone. I liked it on Instagram, so that's why I tried it here, and maybe I could look the same in each place. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I digress. We will move forward now, and just if you're new, I'm sorry that you've come in on this particular video. uh, I do ramble on normally. Okay, so I'm not going to say I don't normally do this, but this was especially rambly. And so for that, I apologize. Um, so if you are new, you don't have to do anything to receive this energy. Um, you can relax. I, close your eyes. I always say that's a better experience. What I do is I get quiet. And, people have asked me for a while now, is it a trance? Is it, what do I, do? And I invite you to go listen to my old podcasts. I think the link is still here on YouTube um, for that podcast, and it talks a lot about how I move energy, um, and my philosophies on it. And it's really not a trance. It is a moment of, complete stillness, um, which of course you would need, I suppose, you just kind of, I've always been like that, like when I speak to spirit or I allow the helping spirits to talk through me, even here on these videos, I just get out of the way, so that's all there is to it. And like I said, I invite you to go ahead and listen to some of my old programs if you like. And there's a lot that I want to share about that too. Um, but let's just move on from there for now, and I will start the energy work. But yeah, I will just get quiet now. If you're new and you haven't seen me do that, I will get quiet. I'll send the energy in, and we'll come back and say goodbye. Okay, so go ahead and get comfortable. Close your eyes if you want to, or if you can. You don't want to do that when you're driving, obviously. All right, so here we go. Okay. And we're getting a really good storm, and it sounds beautiful out there. But it's also, there's something moving around on the roof here because, like I said, I'm upstairs, up at the tippy top. So I actually have a tin roof. Um, no, it's not, you know, it's not the country kind, it's really very good for living up in the mountains because snow accumulates and it could actually cave the roof in. But the way that this roof is made is with the tin roof and the slopey slope, it doesn't sit up there, it just glides down. It's actually a very good thing. Uh, it's like now I feel like sometimes I have to explain things, and that's unfortunate, but I think that that's what happens when you are on social media, you know. And up until now, I've made it a point not to explain a lot about myself, and I don't know why I am today, but there you have it. In case you were wondering, inquiring minds want to know all kinds of things. But I hope you enjoyed that little bit of energy work. That was just some straight up energy. It wasn't, I didn't use tree, you know. I try to disclose anything, but there's nothing to report except I hope that helped you a little bit. And thank you for being here as always. I am undecided about whether I'm going to do more of these or, let's just leave that up in the air. I'm not saying goodbye, but I'm not saying, I'm just not sure. It's just, it occurred to me again just now that usually when I finish these, my beautiful friend, Corinne De Winter, is not going to be um, getting a hold of me, that sometimes I would be do I would love I'm busy a lot, and as in her words, she would say I'm hard to pin down, and she would know that I'm around when I, put this kind of video out. So she would be all up in my grill and saying, "Oh, thank you." She'd first start with watching this and a comment on here, and then she would, call me or whatever, and it was kind of like not only should I be ready for doing the video, but I should be ready for some contact from her. And I guess I wonder if that will happen now when we hang up here. Maybe she'll come and say hello, spiritually speaking, I guess. Um, so yeah, I'm not completely all together yet. She only passed about 3 weeks ago or so, maybe a month, and it's still very raw. And I'm just going with it. I'm processing, like we all should. We shouldn't just push it down. And, I guess that's another thing to bring up briefly if I can, if I may. And that's about processing emotions. And I had this person who was on my Instagram live last, and she had this anxiety. I really didn't want to make it a whole sermon about, how to process anxiety or emotions. I was in the mode of just working with energy at that time. That was my purpose on those videos, to just kind of demonstrate what's out there, but having been through a great deal in my life, and it's not said in a way of complaint, but in a way of experience, and wisdom, that there are some things that actually really do work, and that is one of them, and as far as anxiety, and that is processing. And it's not, everybody says process your emotions. That's not something unique, but it's the technique. It's how is that possible? How do you do that? And I will make mention of Charlie Goldsmith, who is called The Healer. He had a show called The Healer, where I had first seen him, and to continue from my whole verbal thing earlier about how I came into being, publicly sharing my healing ability, there was also very much a factor because of watching this man, Charlie Goldsmith. I saw him on TV and I went, holy shit, you know, not only for his abilities, like, well, holy shit, period, full stop, because of his abilities, but I found that some of the things that he said and some of the things that he did was similar to me. And I'm not in any way comparing myself to him like I'm at his level, because I'm not actually. I don't think, but that's neither good or bad, but I respect and admire the man very much. And what I'm trying to say is that he inspired me, like, okay, this guy is out there doing this. And it had been a couple of years since of observing him and how he's handled the public and how he handles cases like, people who need healing. I felt like I was more prepared by watching him, and one of the things that I dislike dearly is when people copy one another, like, please don't do that, because we're all unique and different. But one thing I'll tell you is that as far as how he gauges his patients, about how he measures the pain level first, he tries to like factor out all of these variables that could be there that could affect the outcome, where you want to be 100% sure it's you that's making the change and it's not their medication and so on. It's like he helped me a great deal with that. And so I do take a page from him in regards to that now. Whereas before, when people would come to me, I wasn't able to quantify it or gauge it in that way. Like I wouldn't be able to, like I didn't think of it myself. Like let's ask them. I guess doctors do that too, right? They have these charts and they're like, pick a smiley face, correct? They'll be like, as far as your pain level and stuff. Well, I thought that was brilliant, so I certainly took a page. But other than that, I try to. I am my own person still, but he has these classes which I have taken, and I mentioned on my one of my Instagram lives that because people ask a lot, and they did that evening about can they do this for themselves? Can they? And I believe everybody can heal on certain levels, varying degrees. As I said in that video, but um, it's not that I'm against teaching, and you'll find that on my YouTube I do have a few pieces of teaching of some basics of how I introduce energy work to people, but Charlie Goldsmith is very, very good with his classes and his energy movement sessions. So charliegoldsmith.com, I feel like a weird spokesperson for him. I don't know him. I want to make that clear. I don't want to know him. And I said that wrong. I mean, what I mean by that is I'm not looking to like ride his coattails or do anything. I'm sure he's an excellent person, and We could be friends, but I'm not. That's all I'm trying to say. Um, but he, with all that rigmarole, okay, what I'm trying to say is he has talked about processing these emotions in depth. If you Google Charlie Goldsmith anxiety, I think you'll get to it. Okay. Or maybe I'll find that for you and put it here. I will. I'll put it here in the comments, or the spot down here in the description, and I'll add that link if I can find it. And he talks about in depth how to actually process uh, emotions, not only anxiety, but other things. And I think it's really important to do that. And I use that technique myself. I've always been a big believer in being allowed to have emotions, meeting with them face to face, and it has absolutely helped me tremendously, because like I was saying, I have been through a whole lot, and it's not like, oh, get your violin out. It's just that I have been through a lot. I've I've seen I've buried a lover, a son, my parents, my friends. I've been violated and beaten and kicked around, and I'm sure there's other people that have been through worse than me. I've been homeless. I've been really poor, and I've been really rich, and like everything in between. Um, and so when you have that beautiful pedigree, that spiritual resume, um, you learn a thing or two along the way, you know? And so I know how to process my emotions. I forget sometimes to do so, but it's very important. It's like, to me, how I do it is I literally sit there and let it come through me. It's like I picture it just coursing through my veins. It's this entity that's traveling through me, and I need to feel every bit of it. It's it's not a part of me, but it is in me, and I have to let it, do its course. I have to allow those emotions without judgment and so on. And so that's why I really suggest you try that too when it comes to anxiety, because so many people, I'm getting all these healing requests as I do. A lot of it I don't answer because it is about anxiety. And it's not because I don't care that you have anxiety. I do know that we have a lot of power within us to help ourselves, and I've said this over and over again, but part of a good healer's job is to show people what they can do for themselves too. And while we're on the subject of Charlie Goldsmith, he also does that really well. He has programs for eating well and so on. I could go on and on, but I will try not to mention him too much because I've been very careful about that because I know he's like me. Like, I won't recommend anybody unless I absolutely am certain. So, I hesitated to mention that I took classes uh, because I don't want to muddy that water in any way, like, but I actually asked him if that was something we could do, as people who have taken his class, and he said, yeah, sure, it's the truth. So there we have it. Um, I went on and on, but yeah, that's something really good to look into, please. You know, um, and I'm doing that at every step of some of these things that I'm dealing with right now, within the past several months. It's just been a lot. And some of it's been really good. but some of it not so much. And the trick is to process each of those things fairly, with equal time and equal attention. Yeah. So I'm really sorry. It's like I never do it this long. Well, I have in the past, but I've usually warned you. But this time, I hope this helped you at least a little bit and you could take something from it, which is my point here. I don't come on here to hear myself talk. So God bless you. I love you. And Corinne de Winter, I love you. And I know that you're here with me right now, listening. And I want to thank you for your support and love. Um, and I will never forget you. Um, Corinne de Winter was a amazing person who also had amazing abilities as a writer. She was an award winner for several poetry pieces. Her pieces were posted in the New York Quarterlies with Charles Bukowski, who although, maybe he was viewed as a rotten person, he was a great poet. And I remember when I met Corinne, I was like shell shocked at her being, you know, grouped into pieces with Charles Bukowski. I was very impressed and very humbled to know her. And she was an award-winning horror writer as well, which it wasn't my bag, but talent is talent. And she was just amazing. And I feel like I just needed to share more of that. So I got it out in there, and I will talk to you when I talk to you. And otherwise, I'll see you. Okay, bye now.